What doctor can I even see? There are very few men that I trust anymore. My job requires me to shut the doors so as to not breach confidentiality, but I can't. I can't bring myself to shut the doors with a man I don't know in the room with me. I can't talk about it with anyone, because if they ask me how I'm doing, I'll lose my words and tears form in my eyes. It makes me so mad because I don't want to deal with any of it. I wasted my time for years. I cannot replace the tears that have streamed down my face, or worse, my mother's. I can pick up the pieces for myself. I picked myself up, the physical pain I've experienced, and I can do it for this. What I can't do is take the pain away from my mom. I can't make it better. The regrets that she holds are damaging. The relationship that we have now is fragmented. She wants to talk about it to help heal her healing process, but I don't. Nothing in me wants to say anything more than I'm fine. I can't find the words. Just typing this makes me sick. I can't stop the tears from forming in my eyes. The hurt that I feel goes way too deep. I don't want to think about it, which is why I chose to remain anonymous. Something in me believed it would be easier. It's not. If anything, it makes it more difficult because I left myself with no support. Only a few people are there to support, but what can they even do? They don't understand. They never met the loud, funny person that grabbed the attention when he walked in a room. Reports say that you're quiet and soft-spoken now. Who are you really? That's the only question I'm left with. Number 142.
Thank you. I'm hoping that her statement will help her and her mother and her hurt heal. I don't think she's realized how important just writing that statement is, and I'm hoping that she's hearing you speak or that you'll pass on that message to her. I'm hoping her sadness is replaced with hope and happiness for a bright future, which she clearly has. She has found her voice. She just needs to realize how strong she is, and hopefully she'll do that with her sister survivors. Thank you.
The next statement is number 162.
You may proceed when you're ready.
I never was an Olympian, never made the national team, but I was a junior international elite gymnast, and all my fellow gymnastics friends out there know how much time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears it takes to get there. My teammate was a 2-time Olympian, and I so admired everything about her, including how she came into the gym and even on the toughest days suffered in silence. She never once talked back to her coaches, and every day I watched her get better and better. I watched her compete in those 2 Olympics and celebrate her victories. I so badly wanted to do the same. I would like to tell one story in particular that pieces everything together. I was 13 years old. My teammate was training for the 2000 Olympic Games, and I was training alongside her. We were lucky to have one of the top USAG coaches come and spend a couple days with her to help her get ready. I remember being terrified of this woman and was told I was privileged to get to have her even look at my vaults. Unfortunately, I had severely pulled my hamstring a few weeks before this and was having trouble running down the vault runway. I am not sure why my coaches put me in this situation in the first place, because they knew I wasn't able to run, but that's beside the point. I am sure they were thinking her insight would only help me. Well, as I pushed through the excruciating pain just to impress this woman, she proceeded to yell at me and shamed me for not being tough enough to fight through the pain. She said that I would never make the national team if I didn't toughen up. I remember standing in front of her crying while my other 2 coaches just stood there witnessing this. This led me to Classics of 2000. It is a huge competition, one of the most important ones of my life, in fact. My hamstring was still hurt, and this was the competition that would allow me to qualify for the U.S. Championships and quite possibly make the U.S. national team. I remember I was nervous and excited, ready to prove myself. My coach was watching me warm up on floor and said my leap pass was still not getting 180 degrees split. I said to her, "I can't. It feels like my hamstring is going to rip from my bone." She said, "Okay, I'm going to find Larry. Maybe he can squeeze you in before competition." She promptly came back with a huge smile of victory on her face. "Come on, let's go. He's able to see you now, really quick." I remember feeling super stoked that the U.S. Olympic doctor, they so-called a miracle worker, would find the time to see me and help fix my hamstring. Both of my coaches followed me to the tiny room he had set up off the arena, with curtains containing the space for privacy. He then turned to my male coach and said something along the lines of, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave because it would be inappropriate for you to be in here while I work on such sensitive areas." Well, that should have been a red flag, but again, we all had complete trust in our coaches and this doctor, so it didn't even cross my mind. In fact, that made me more assured that I was in safe hands. My female coach remained in the room and chatted with Larry about how the Olympic teammate of mine was doing, etc., etc. I cannot remember exactly because I was too focused on the fact that this man had just pulled my leotard to the side and inserted his fingers into my vagina. No warning, no consent, just going along as if this was totally normal. I remember holding my breath, paralyzed with discomfort and embarrassment. I did not at the time think he was molesting me, just that this procedure was awful. I don't want to make this too long, and trust me, I could go on and on about the culture of gymnastics and other enablers, but the point I'm trying to make is that I was a little girl who was boldly told that I was not tough enough. So you can understand why I would so eagerly and gratefully rush into a miracle doctor's office to receive any treatment, no matter how embarrassing and violating it was, in order to be relieved of the pain, so I could hopefully one day be as lucky as my Olympic teammate. Larry knew that my female coach trusted him completely because he used to work on her neck spasms and would work wonders on her. He knew she trusted him because she went to the '96 Olympics with her, and she thought of him as a friend. He knew this and was bold enough to do this to me with her right there in this tiny little space. As an adult now with 2 babies, one just 4-month-old, it is difficult for me to sleep at night having flashbacks to that day. It is clearer now than it was on that day it occurred, because I now know what he was really doing, and it makes me sick. This last year I was diagnosed with PTSD, which I am working on developing coping skills for, but it has been especially hard dealing with a newborn through this all. But I can honestly say that watching these women gain their power back has been giving me strength to regain mine. And for once in my life I can say, USAG and Larry Nassar, I am tough enough. It's you that are weak by preying on and degrading young children. Thank you for your time. Number 162.
Thank you. I've heard her point. I understand. I believe her. She is tough to have written that letter. Those words are powerful, and I have every confidence she will heal. Next.
Here are the next 2 statements I will read, and they are also anonymous and have requested that we read them in open court. The first is from victim number 185. Your Honor, before beginning with my impact statement, I would like to address the survivors who have courageously stood at this podium and shared their stories. You have inspired me to contribute, participate, and share my statement. Thank you. Your Honor, I would also like to take this moment to thank you for giving us the opportunity to address the court and the defendant. For the past year, since finding out about Larry Nassar and his, quote, questionable procedure, I have felt disgusted, foolish, betrayed, and heartbroken. Disgusted because Larry preyed upon young, beautiful, talented, and helpless girls who were in pain and sought healing. Larry used his position of power to sexually abuse wherever and whenever, regardless of who was around. Disgusted because he fooled me and every other survivor with his vile acts. Disgusted because it took over 20 years and over 150 victims before any actions were taken against him. This past year, I have felt foolish because I always wondered.
All right, everybody, welcome back to News Now this Monday afternoon, January 22nd. Pilar Arias still here with you. I see some sort of press conference on another live feed. I'm not quite sure where it is or what it's about, but let's head there.
Dangerous and an immoral business as usual. In a few weeks, we will be right back here again. Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the House, but still can't meet their most basic constitutional responsibility, funding the government, especially health programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to my colleagues. It was my great honor, duty, and responsibility to help fashion Congress's response to two of the most egregious natural disasters we have ever had, Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. All of us have experienced in recent days what can happen when disaster touches your community. None of us are insulated from these kinds of catastrophic events. In New Jersey, it may be New Jersey and New York, it may be Sandy, it may be Harvey in Texas, and it may be hurricanes and floods in the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Florida. No matter where you live, you are subject to be visited by some catastrophic event. And it becomes the responsibility of the Congress to respond on behalf of the American people. And this CR, this continuing resolution, refuses to give the aid and comfort that's needed to the people of the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Texas, other states, and now California with its fires. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves for punishing the American people who are suffering through no fault of their own. And so we are going to vote no on this resolution because we feel that it fails to adequately and properly respond to the needs of the American people. And with that, I'll yield to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries.
Thank you, Leader Clyburn. Thank you, Chairman Richmond, for your tremendous leadership, and to all the members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Since day one of the Trump presidency, all we've seen in this country is chaos, crisis, and confusion. And this most recent Republican example is another instance of the failure of the Republican-controlled Congress and their ally in the White House to govern this country effectively. And unfortunately, with respect to this agreement, there is a failure to fix our broken immigration system or even provide an adequate pathway toward doing so in the United States House of Representatives. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, has at least promised an up or down vote on an effort to deal with the situation impacting the Dreamers. A situation, by the way, which was entirely created as a man-made disaster by Donald Trump, who unceremoniously, for political reasons, pandering to his right-wing base, decided to end the DACA program. We need a pathway forward to address the Dreamer situation, consistent with where more than 85% of the American people are at. And so we're asking for Paul Ryan to make the commitment to deal with our broken immigration system, which he has failed to do, to start with the Dreamers, and to also make sure that you leave untouched the diversity visa system. which is a pathway for hard-working immigrants from throughout the world, and in particular from the continent of Africa, to come here to this country to pursue the American dream and to continue to contribute in a mighty way, which they have been doing month after month, year after year, decade after decade. And that is an additional reason why the Congressional Black Caucus has chosen to oppose the agreement that was reached, looking for a better pathway forward for the American people in terms of the immigration system upon which this nation has been built. And with that, I yield back to our distinguished chairperson, Cedric Richmond.
And let me just be clear about how we will go forward. We have a number of, the one thing about this caucus, the 48 members of it, one, people call us, but we have earned the reputation as the conscience of this Congress. And there's no way in good conscience we could vote for a bill that leaves so many people behind and so many American families behind and in such an irresponsible way to govern. We have two responsibilities, our biggest two: vote on war and to fund government. And what has happened during this presidency is a complete failure. But another part of this caucus, we have some of the most talented members in this Congress, many of them who are ranking members on committees and subject matter experts in a number of areas. So I will let them answer questions, and we'll do it in a very short way to make sure that we get as many of your questions answered as we can. So are there any questions?
This bill isn't going to pass the Senate without Democratic help. And if it is such a terrible thing, then why do you think Democrats are going along with it? Is it more important to open up the government at this point, or do you think they should hold the line?
Well, I think we have two different chambers with two different dynamics. And the members you see here are our House members. And I'm not privy to all the conversations that have gone on between the majority leader and the minority leader and what understandings they have come to. But what we have to do in the House is judge the document for what we see. And the document that we see and what it stands for is something that we cannot in good conscience vote for. Any other questions?
What do you say to people that are saying that you're putting illegals before Americans and making it an issue when we have until March to settle this, especially for someone that came to this country legally like yourself?
I would just say that that's a lie perpetuated by the Republican Party. But anyone else want to? Anyone want to respond to that? So, well, I would say it's not true, and that we believe in legal immigration, and we have, and we do. I'll answer if you allow me to. And that we mention the Dreamers, that they came here through no fault of their own. They've contributed, they've served in the military, they've become a valuable part of this country, and we're not turning our backs on them. But if you're asking me to respond to every Republican lie and fake news under this Congress, we don't have enough time here today, nor this month, to go through them all. Karen Bass.
Let me just reiterate what Hakeem Jeffries pointed out, which is the fact that the folks who are on DACA have legal status. It's President Trump who is rendering them undocumented by decertifying the program. And although it expires in full in March, DACA recipients are expiring by the day depending on when they applied for the program, and some of them are being documented. So that is also the reason for the urgency of now.
And let me just say this. When you ask that question, you're asking the wrong people.
Gotta get to the mic.
So when you ask that question, you're asking the wrong people. You're talking about people that have a history. Maxine and I were talking about this today, of families being torn apart when we were brought to this country. We believe in family unification. We believe in keeping families whole because we know from our history as slaves brought here against our will how important that is. So you're talking to the wrong people when you talk to us.
Any other questions? Mhm. You're going to have to speak up.
Congressman Luis Gutierrez was very frank in saying that the Democrats in the Senate that voted for this path to move forward earlier folded. Do you hold that position as well?
Well, Luis is not a member of this caucus, but like I said before, the Senate deals with their own dynamics, and we deal with our House dynamics. So in the Senate, maybe they're having conversations and things that we don't know about, but all we can do is judge the actions of this Republican House that has all the votes they need to pass a long-term spending bill, but they haven't done it. And they keep governing week to week to week to week, which is irresponsible and hurts this country. So what we have to do as a body is to read the document and decide whether we think it hurts this country and American families or if it hurts them. And we've decided that we could not go against our conscience and vote for a bill that hurts American people. And we have no comment on what the Senate did.
Two sentences.
G.K. Butterfield.
Very quickly, we want to make it abundantly clear that the Congressional Black Caucus certainly supports and embraces our dreamers. They have dreams to become American citizens, and we embrace their goals. But our objection to the continuing resolution is not only about the failure of the Congress to address the status of the dreamers, but we have other concerns that are equally as compelling, such as community health centers, such as disaster relief and other very important issues. So please do not report that we are objecting to the CR because of the failure of the Congress to take up the DREAM Act. It is much wider and much deeper than that. Thank you.
Any other questions? You're gonna have to say it loud.
It's pretty much guaranteed that there's going to be more CRs after this. Do you guys expect to be here 3 weeks from now with these same issues?
You said that. That's the problem.
Absolutely. And since I've been in Congress and Republicans have controlled the House has continued to govern by man-made deadline, man-made disaster, one after the other. Our budgeting process, since Republicans took control of the House, has been a disaster for the American people. We don't appropriate funds until we let government shut down. And that's just not the way to govern. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we want to be crystal clear with the American people about how grave and important we think this responsibility is, and that we're not going to participate. We will not be co-conspirators and continue to fail American families by budgeting and appropriating funds in increments of 30 days, 60 days, 10 days, 5 days. We just won't let that be done anymore. So, yes, the bad news is we think if this passes, they will do it again. And at some point, if you listen to General Mattis and others, that continuing resolutions, and this is Republicans, not Democrats saying this, continuing resolutions are no way to fund the American government because it doesn't provide the stability and security that we need for our troops and our American families.
Can I comment, please? Thank you. I want to thank the chairman very much. I want to comment on your question in particular. And to my good friends and sisters to my left, I just want to emphasize the fact that we are a nation of immigrants and of laws. I think the Congressional Black Caucus has always stood by laws that are moral. And what we find is the destruction of the Dreamers program was not initiated for any serious reason of governance. It was initiated for a divisive stance on making them illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants have been thrown against those of us of color, Democrats, when it is actually not factual. We support family reunification, and we support the opportunities for people to become citizens, and we certainly support the opportunity for people of color to access the citizenship pathway in the United States, and that should be very clear. But let me tell you the real-life stories of those of us who have experienced disaster in this window of 2017. Many of the colleagues here from the Virgin Islands, people in the Hispanic caucus from Puerto Rico, but our members from Florida, Louisiana, our members from California, and those of us from Texas. And I can speak specifically for where this government has failed. The Republican president, the Republican House, the Republican Senate.
The Republican president came to Texas in particular and bent down to speak to those of us on the tarmac and said, we will provide for you everything you need. Right now, in many places in our constituencies, there are people with no power, the houses are gutted, and there is no response. Now, many of you may have heard $5 billion was allocated sometime in September. This Republican administration has not rendered that money anywhere. We don't have $5 billion. Nowhere has a discussion been in the CR of disaster supplemental or monies, which is what we're standing for. So with 51 trillion gallons of water and with people still suffering or living in tents in Texas, I can say to you that this is a failed government, this is a failed process, and in good conscience, we cannot vote to not help the people throughout this area who have suffered from hurricanes, mudslides, fires, and anything else. And I think that we will see this again, and we just can't stand for it.
Oh, okay. Go on.
Are there any more questions right now? Hold on, Bobby, I'm coming. Well, Hakeem addressed it at the beginning, and we know, and we sent out a letter earlier about the importance of diversity visas, and our position has not changed. Barbara Lee from the Appropriations Committee wants to address a few of the items that are being appropriated and not being appropriated and the importance of it, and then we'll kind of close out with one more member.
No, thank you very much. I want to thank our chairman and the Congressional Black Caucus really for their moral stand and also the responsible stand to not support the CR. As a member of the Appropriations Committee, and I serve on the subcommittee that funds our veterans, the subcommittee that funds our workforce, Department of Labor, Health, Human Services, all of our domestic programs. And I can tell you with certainty that these CRs that keep coming to us reflect a spending level that is devastating for our communities. It's devastating to community health centers, to our children's health program, to our disaster relief, to the opioid crisis, to all of the issues that this Congressional Black Caucus stands for. And so we have to get back to a budget that really signifies and realizes and says to the public that we care about the black community and communities of color by prioritizing spending on schools and on housing and on health care and on addressing disaster relief and all of the issues that you know so well that the Congressional Black Caucus stands for. So thank you very much, Chairman Richmond and CBC, for standing firm against this budget, the CR.
And let me just end with this, that we're here today, and the tragedy that's occurring, and this tragic CR, this is a Trump tragedy. This has been created by the Republican leadership, the person in the Oval Office who has been inactive, who was sent senators to compromise, who compromised, who then scuttled it. And this showdown, this tragedy lies at the feet of the Republicans and the top of the ticket Republican, which is Trump. So be crystal clear about that. They have a large number of votes in the House. They could pass this without one Democratic vote. They could have passed the appropriations bill. But they can't get the votes within the Republican caucus to pass a funding bill on their own. Right. So if you want us to help you pass a funding bill, it has to be moral. Right. It has to be fair, and it has to be just. Anything absent that, we will not support. So thank you all for coming here.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for letting me make the appropriation.
No problem.
All right, everybody. The Congressional Black Caucus wrapping up there on Capitol Hill, saying they are not happy with the continuing resolution and reopening the government the way that negotiations stand. But the Senate voting is underway to officially end the government shutdown. Hey, Pilar Arias here with you. Hi. We have a regular viewer who likes this kind of like set display, I guess you could say, show off. I'm not quite sure the right word. You guys help me out, please. Okay. We have multiple cameras. The one that I'm looking at you now is called Camera 2. It's to my left, but it makes it look like the entire Fox 10 Phoenix newsroom is like behind me, but it's really to my right. Like if I were to reach over with my right hand, you can see it. And then, so yeah, you can see all the keyboards and you can see the majority of the monitors. I'm trying to look at what you guys can see. So you see the 2 monitors here. So that's technically like my regular computer where, you know, if you have multiple screens, you can have multiple things up at the same time. So that's why we have that here. And then on the, my left-hand side or front here, this way, I have 2 additional monitors, and they are what I control with the board. Like I technical direct, like I tell which video, which sources to come up and which destination they're going to. And then so you can see here's here's another camera. This is the one we use most often here, and you can see the set in the background. And then we have one more. I got to turn over here. All right, so you guys can see me here as well. So we like to try to mix it up as much as possible, but this morning we had so many moving pieces with breaking news. We didn't even get to a lot of the day's top headlines and other stories. And then even when I was finishing up extra, I had to cut Danielle Miller's story a little short. So we're keeping an eye on Capitol Hill, and I'm getting a press conference out of somewhere right now live. Not quite sure where. So I'm going to take you to the White House really quick first. And then once I figure out exactly what that is, I'll bring it to you here. All right, everybody, I have determined that this is finally the press conference in Oklahoma about that gas rig explosion. Again, we're taking you out to Oklahoma on News Now.
Talk about the incident management team.
Earlier today, some questions were asked. Captain Troy German with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. Some questions were asked about the critical incident debriefing team that for the responders and also the families and the workers that were affected. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol has brought in their critical incident debriefing team to help with that effort. The Men's Baptist Relief has brought in some people to assist us, along with Carl Albert Hospital has brought some people in to help assist. One of the concerns, of course, with the companies is the health and welfare of the ones that are that we have right now. And what they've done is they're bringing in some private companies as part of their policy and procedures. They all have these kind of policies in place for critical incident debriefing. They're bringing theirs in, and we are assisting until they get theirs in, and then we will move strictly to the responders that have been involved in this incident.
We'll open it up to questions. Anybody has any questions?
Is there an active threat right now for communities around the community, or are you confident that you pretty much have everything under control?
Everything is contained to that location. There is no danger to any of the residents around it.
Not even with breathing, but could possibly be burning?
Well, I'm not going to say without a doubt that there's not something there, but there's no need for an evacuation. There is fumes that's burning, but for the most part, everything that's burning is being burned off. So the threat would be very low.
The one that was transported, is that one you said earlier had refused transport?
Yes.
And then did he decide that?
Yeah, he started having a lot more pain. So when the ground EMS unit checked him again, he said, yeah, I need to go. So they went ahead and transported him by medical helicopter. We don't have a burn unit here, so I got him out here.
Can you tell us what's being done to find the 5 people who are still missing?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell us what's being done to find the 5 people who are missing?
Well, right now they're just checking everything, trying to get everything cooled down on location. It's still pretty hot, and it's still a lot of gas coming out of the wellhead. So until they get that contained, everything's going to stay as is.
So is it fair to say that they're not searching for the 5 guys now?
We have searched the surrounding area and have not found anybody at this time.
Do you know the 5 names of the people you're looking for?
We're not going to release the names at this time.
Are you still having small explosions that you mentioned at 1 o'clock on the scene? Or?
No. All of the explosions are done. Everything is contained to the wellhead. the gas that is burning out of the wellhead right now is safe because it's burning. The wellhead control company is going to work on getting that extinguished and containing the raw gas that will be coming out after they get it extinguished.
On those secondary buildings, are they right now too hot for you to go in and see what's up there?
Yes.
How close would you say you've gotten to the actual wellhead fire to do your search? How far out has been your radius that you've had to avoid?
We've not got within 100 foot of the wellhead.
Not within 100 feet?
Have the families been notified either way of the 16 and then the 5?
Yes. The drilling company and the other companies that were on location or had employees or staff on that location, they are handling that and reaching out to those employees' families.
Do you presume the 5 missing or presume dead?
I'm not going to presume anything.
In this situation, are the gusty winds that we're having right now helping or hurting your effort?
Can you repeat that, please?
The gusty wind conditions that we're having right now, is that whether making it more difficult for your fire crews, or is it actually helping the fact that you're concerned about some?
Earlier today, it definitely was a hindrance because the fire was spreading beyond the initial oil well pad there. But now everything is pretty much contained and extinguished other than what's coming out of the wellhead. So wind's not a factor.
How long might it take for you before you can go within 100 feet of the wellhead and start searching closer to it?
That I don't know.
What's the likelihood you guys will be out here throughout tonight and even tomorrow morning?
There will definitely be operations continuing throughout the night and throughout the day tomorrow. Most of those are going to be operations that's going to be handled from the drilling company. They will be handling all of that well shut in. As far as from a emergency responder standpoint, we'll still have responders out until they tell us that they've got their own scene handled. We'll make sure that we keep folks out. Law enforcement will be working to make sure that they keep everybody out of that area so that they can work.
Can you describe what you guys did when you first responded to the scene? Describe that scene and what you had to do.
We got everybody on scene, got everybody off, tried to get an accountability established as far as how many people were on the location, how many people were unaccounted for, and then started initial attack on the fire departments did. They pulled back after we started having explosions, secondary explosions on location. And then they just set up in a containment until we had the well control folks got on scene, and they directed the fire departments on what they needed to address, and they started battling the fire, got it put out with the exception of what's going on with the wellheads right now.
Where were the people who had gotten some safety, where were they? Who people got?
The people that got off location, walking down the road. When the first responders started showing up, the rig personnel was walking down the road away from the well.
And was this at the start of this shift, or was it already underway?
That I don't know. We got the call at 8:45 this morning.
And I guess a follow-up question. I'm sure you've had a chance to speak with the survivors, those who were able to walk away. Did they talk about what happened up until that point? Did they say something was wrong?
I don't have any knowledge as far as what caused it, what it was. I don't know.
And they're not saying it was a specific area or at some point things took a turn for the worse?
I can't speak to that. I don't know, sir.
Do the feds have to get involved in any of this, or can this stay mainly at the state level? I know you've mentioned environmental cleanup.
Well, there will be the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, DEQ, those folks will handle that environmental side. And I'm certain if the state feels like that they need federal assistance to come in and help them with something, they will certainly do so. But as far as specifically will they, I don't know at this time.
Can you tell us anything about the drill company doing the drilling? Are they familiar around here? Do they drill our work here?
I don't know. I know they have the one rig operating here that we're looking at today.
Another rig, you mean, or the same?
The same one, this one. I don't know if they have more.
And the 5 people that are missing, are they all
I don't know. I think they're from out of town. There may be some locals. I don't know that any of them are specific to our county. We're still trying to determine that.
Are there any homes leading on the road that leads up to this that maybe those people have been asked to stay home or stay away from this evening?
Yeah, we are keeping everybody out of that area. The closest home to the site is about a half-mile away from the actual site.
And they've been asked to
They're
find
just
another place?
staying at home, sheltering in place at home.
And just to clarify, last time you said there's 17 that made it out, but now there is still going to be 15 uninjured and the one that was transported.
There was 17 total that left the location. 16 of those were not injured, 1 injured, and 5 unaccounted for. Any other?
The company is brought in as well control experts. What are they telling you?
I don't have any more information from the well control experts. We're trying to get another news conference set up for later on this evening. Their main focus right now is to get that well contained. So they're busy focusing their efforts on that. Once they get where they can, we're trying to get another news conference set to where we can have those folks address those questions to you.
From the pictures we've seen from the air, it looks like what we would consider the tower has collapsed. Would you say the main structure of this has just been decimated by this?
The derrick, yes. The derrick that stands up has fell over, yes.
Was this something you would hear in town when it happened out there?
I don't know. I wasn't in town. I was in McAllister when the call came out, so I don't know. Another press conference at whatever time.
Do y'all want to have another press conference this evening, or in the morning be okay? I mean, they're going to be out working probably most of the evening, most of the night. If we need to meet again this evening, we could. If not, we'd have you a lot more. We may or may not have anything else if we come back at 6 or 8 o'clock. But in the morning, I'm pretty sure we'd have some. Did you invite them this time? I think they might have been invited. I don't know. You just probably have to reach out to them with their companies.
I'd say 8 if there's, unless there's nothing new.
So we'll say if there's nothing new, then there's really no need to meet back up, and then we'd meet again like at 10 in the morning.
And the company, I mean, that's kind of who we'd like to hear.
Yeah.
Anybody that you can provide for us or any cost is working with team, especially seeing any information, we would very much be grateful for that.
Yeah. Okay. So we want to shoot for that in the morning? Be good?
Is it Red Mountain Energy and Patterson are both on scene? Or what?
It's Red Mountain Energy is the actual owner of the well site, and then they have different companies that come in and do certain work. Patterson does some work, and then there's 2 or 3 other companies that done work as well.
And it's Patterson's employees that were doing the work this morning.
Some of theirs. There's 3 of theirs that are unaccounted for, and there's 2 from other companies.
You know when you'll be releasing the names of the 5?
We won't release those until later on, till we, everything is identified by the medical examiner's office, if it comes to that point, or it'll be in the future.
Sorry to reiterate, so no potential for anything tonight?
No, I don't foresee anything else coming out tonight. I mean, we're going to be out working all evening, but I don't know that we're going to have any more news between now and 9 or 10 o'clock.
So when do you think the fire might be up? Do you think that'll be tonight?
I don't know. I don't know. It's still, it could take them several hours to get that fire that's coming out of that wellhead contained. First off is they have to make sure it's safe enough to get their equipment on. Then when they get their equipment on, then they'll go to work, and I don't know how long that'll take. That could take several hours.
Well, I guess that would be helpful to know if that happens tonight, just so we could say the fire.
Well, I can tell you that they are there working right now, getting their game plan put together to control the wellhead, but I can't tell you is when. I know it'll take them quite a while.
Once that's accomplished, we could all know that.
Yeah.
If we find out, we can send an email to the station.
Yeah. We have a PIO here as well, and we can give her information where we're going to be sending out press releases to everybody. We've got, I think, pretty much everybody here captured, But before she leaves here, we'll make sure we've got all of y'all's contact information on our list, and we will get that press release. We'll be sending those out, those updates, as they become available from now.
Something in the morning, maybe 10 o'clock, we'll see you here, or?
10 o'clock.
I think we could do another one at 10 in the morning.
I'm sorry,
I believe we could do another one at 10 in the morning.
Okay.
Yep, that would be good. All right. Thank y'all. Appreciate everybody coming out.
All right, everybody. Certainly some sad news out of Oklahoma, where we're being told that people are still missing following that gas well explosion. Well, Pilar Arias here with you. We're getting word that there could be some breaking news here in the Phoenix area momentarily. We're waiting for Sky Fox to get to the scene. So as soon as I have that live picture, I will bring it up here for you on News Now. You all just saw all of my expansive set. It's pretty much, I have long arms, right? And it's like this, like from arm to arm pretty much. And there's like 2 mice and 2 keyboards. So it can be a lot sometimes. But again, you're watching News Now. We appreciate you being here with us on Monday. It is January 22nd. Where did the month of July go? Can you believe it's already almost up? And wow, I mean, last year, 2017, just seemed to fly by, and here we are again. Well, I want to show you some beautiful live pictures we have right now. Look at this. Our nation's capital, Capitol Hill. Beautiful picture right now because, you know, it's getting close. They're 2 hours ahead of us, 4:45. So I'm actually quite surprised how well lit up this picture is, because normally around that time here in Arizona, it's already starting to get sunset-like. The sun is already setting. So, but a beautiful picture. You see the overcast clouds there, the darker clouds on the top, and the lighter clouds there on the bottom. And you see the American flag wavering there. It certainly looks like a winter stop, wouldn't you say? Hey, I've been given permission. I'm allowed to ask you all poll questions in the afternoon when possible, in the lower thirds when we can. So I've already asked 2 today. And did I say month of July? Some of you are saying I said month of July instead of January. Maybe it's because July is my favorite month for some reason. Maybe it's because they both start with J. Who knows? But we are waiting for the breaking news to come up. So we're going to keep a very close eye on things. Let's look outside here in the Valley of the Sun. This is why we're called the Valley of the Sun. We had a beautiful sunrise this morning. So still a beautiful picture out there. A couple overcast clouds. Let me check the exact temperature. I haven't been outside in a bit. It looks like it's 57, so it looks like tons of sunshine out there, but still a little cold, because anytime we're in the 50s here in the valley, it's a little bit cold. All right, I believe the Senate is voting to end the government shutdown. Not quite sure if this is going to have any audio, but I'm going to take you all there while I wait for Sky Fox to get on the scene here in the valley. Again, thanks so much for watching News Now. Have somebody on our YouTube chat saying that there's a fire near Weatherford, Texas. No word on that. There was a school shooting in Italy, Texas. Breaking news right now into News Now. The Senate vote to reopen the government is still open, as you see here, but we're being told they have enough votes to pass it. Once they close the vote, the bill goes over to the House, so we will likely be witnessing the reopening of the government. So all the federal employees who were furloughed today likely reporting back to work tomorrow on Tuesday, January 23rd. We're not in summer yet. I don't know where I got mixed up with my J's. So some people are asking, they thought that this vote had already occurred. No, you're watching the Senate floor live. So what they did was they approved a continuing resolution, which was essentially their deal, their agreement to continue negotiations for 3 weeks to fund the government through February 8th. So that's like, yes, we compromised, we came to a deal, we agree on it. So now that they've agreed, they have to have another vote to officially reopen the government, to say, you know, fund these programs, these options for 3 weeks. And then it's going to go back to the House. And the House vote is expected tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern, which is 3 p.m. Arizona time, so this afternoon. So what you're watching is live. We are on the Senate floor waiting for breaking news out of the Phoenix area. And as soon as Sky Fox gets to the scene, we are going to bring you the breaking news live here on News Now. I hope you all are having a great Monday, great start to your week, a great end to the month, the first month of 2018 already. Okay, we had somebody in the YouTube chat asking us about a fire near Weatherford, Texas. I am going to get a live picture from there. It is Parker County, Texas. So it is west of Fort Worth, so about pretty much a suburb of the Fort Worth, Dallas area. Here we go. Let's go to it live now. Take a look at that. This is their version of Skyfox, KDFW, providing us the picture. They've been pretty busy out there this morning because they are also the ones that provided us the Skyfox footage of the Italy, Texas school shooting. I'm still not sure if I'm saying that right because as someone who lives in Texas for 5 years, I noticed that a lot of the cities are not pronounced the way that they're spelled. Cities and names, like Nacogdoches. Uvalde, that was one of the cities I always remember. Wow. So smoke likely being seen for miles, so that's very likely the reason why a lot of people are asking exactly what is going on. Again, this is Skyfox, so the picture might be coming in and out a little bit.
Sorry.
Wow, we have a Bakersfield, California viewer right now. Welcome to News Now. Is this your first time? Let us know. Somebody on the YouTube chat is asking me why I lived in Texas for 5 years. Well, that's where I started my television news career. I first worked in Beaumont, Texas, which is about 30 minutes away from the Louisiana border. On the Gulf of Mexico there, talk about humidity. My hair and makeup never behaved there. I'm sure you could find some of my old stuff if you looked. Then I worked in El Paso, Texas. As somebody from the Southwest, from Arizona, a lot of great tasting restaurants out there in El Paso, very kind people. I definitely enjoyed my time there, but I also grew very fond of Cajun food when I worked in Beaumont in Southeast Texas. So it seems I like food wherever I go. And then I lived in San Antonio the longest for 2.5 years. I have been to the Dallas area myself. I did that drive. I haven't been west of Fort Worth, but I've flown to Dallas before, so I know that I've flown over Fort Worth. There's definitely some rural suburb areas. So again, this is being reported as a grass fire, but it's very interesting to see exactly how they're fighting this. You see the truck either extinguishing or creating a fire line. Anybody out there who's watching now familiar with firefighting technique? Like, does this just put out the flames? Does it stop it from spreading? I'm not quite sure how this works. All right, everybody, let's head on over to the Senate really quickly.
The nays are 18. The motion to concur is agreed to with amendment.
All right, everybody, there you have it. It's official. Again, the exact same vote as the continuing resolution, 81 to 18. This now goes back to the House. And if they approve it, the government will be back open tomorrow. Again, you are watching News Now. Let's head back out to Parker County, Texas. Actually, let's see if they have any remarks here.
The Senate will be in order.
Madam President, after 3 days of an unnecessary lapse in funding, a bipartisan majority has brought the Democratic leader's extraordinary filibuster to an end and passed a bipartisan bill to reopen the federal government. As I've said repeatedly over the past week, shutting down the government is an irresponsible way to do business. It does not reflect the seriousness with which I know my colleagues on both sides would like to approach the people's business here in the Senate. All our important work for the American people had to be put on hold while this manufactured crisis was dealt with. We made no substantive progress, not 1 inch, on the serious bipartisan negotiations that will take to solve issues such as immigration and border security, health care, defense spending, and many other matters. So I'm glad we can finally get back to work here. Amid the political gamesmanship, the past 3 days have highlighted many of my colleagues' commitment to honest and bipartisan work. I'd like to particularly thank Senator Graham, Senator Collins, Senator Flake, and several of our Democratic colleagues who worked tirelessly to bring this impasse to a conclusion. Soon, federal operations will be getting back to normal for the American people. We all know what comes next, challenging negotiations on a host of serious issues. The weeks ahead will require the best from all of us. I hope we can remember some lessons from this regrettable incident. Brinksmanship and hostage-taking do not work. They make bipartisan progress harder, not easier, to achieve. Senators must focus on the common good of the American people, not the warped priorities of extreme voices, no matter how loudly they shout at us to do otherwise. With the pointless, damaging, partisan theatrics of this government shutdown behind us, serious and bipartisan negotiations can resume. We've been talking for months about how to address military spending, disaster relief, health care, immigration, and border security, and the rest of Congress' unfinished business. Now those talks can get going again. Whether they bear fruit is up to all of us. Now, Mr. President, I move to proceed to executive session to consider calendar number 594, Jerome Powell.
Questions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion is carried. Clerk will report the nomination.
Nomination, Federal Reserve System, Jerome H. Powell of Maryland.
All right, everybody. So there you have it. The spending bill is headed back to the House. Let's continue to watch what's the situation happening in Parker County, Texas. Keeping a close eye on this, trying to see if I can get some more information. We are being told these or this, not sure if it's multiple, more than one, grass fires is what we're being told are burning today in Flower Mound and Parker County. So 2 grass fires were burning in parts of North Texas this afternoon. Multiple agencies are working to put down a grass fire in Flower Mound near U.S. Highway 377 that had already burned about 100 acres. Crews were also working in Parker County to battle a grass fire near Willow Park. So we'll keep a close eye on that. But it looks like our Skyfox picture is up for the breaking news, so we're going to head there right now. All right, I had to cut the chopper audio there. So this is a developing story, breaking news, very fluid at this time. We'll let you know what we know, though, so far. So this is around 70th Avenue in Buckeye. And again, this picture is coming in from Skyfox, so it may come in and out, but we're going to stay on this now. Phoenix, Goodyear, and Tolleson fire departments are currently on scene of a commercial building in, again, the area of 70th Avenue and Buckeye Roads, which is on the west side, for a possible carbon dioxide leak. Make sure I say that properly. The building has been evacuated and all personnel that work at the location have been accounted for, according to employees on the site. The building is equipped with a CO2 tank. The initial hazmat units on scene are reporting that they have detected CO2, which is carbon dioxide, on their meters. Carbon dioxide is a colorless and odorless gas that can decrease the oxygen levels in an area. Human bodies exhale carbon dioxide as the byproduct of respiration, so the chemical itself is not hazardous unless it displaces oxygen. It appears the public information officer or the spokesman or spokeswoman headed to the scene will send out additional information as it becomes available. They say there's currently no threat to the environment or surrounding communities. But as you can see, hazmat crews are on scene. They have secured 2 leaking carbon dioxide lines and are continuously monitoring the air. Currently, carbon dioxide levels are decreasing. All non-hazmat crews have been recalled as the incident downsizes based on the decreased threat. Turns out a spokesperson, either man or woman, is not headed to the scene, but they're going to continue to provide us updates as they come. Again, you're watching News Now. If you're joining us now on the Fox 10 Phoenix Facebook Live, welcome. This is what we do here on News Now. We bring you news as it's happening, breaking. We just witnessed the Senate pass a bill to reopen the government, and that bill is now headed to the House of Representatives. So this is the situation. Again, 70th Avenue and Buckeye. I'm trying to pull up a map. You all can see exactly where we're talking about. The fire crews there on scene. I see lower Buckeye Road, but not just oh, there it is. Try to pull up both pictures for you. Definitely tell it is an industrial area here. So there you go. There's a look. Map is on the left. The scene is on the right. This is 67th Avenue. And you can see the 10 up here. Buckeye is down here. This is Buckeye. Let me zoom in for you all. So this is the area what we are talking about. Looks like there's a Quick Trip gas station there on the corner right here. So likely in this area, because again, this is 67th. This isn't exactly 70th. So we're being told it's close to 70th and Buckeye. Let's go back to the when I look up Cafe Valley, websites say that it's a bakery. Bakery Inc. Cafe Valley Bakery Inc. So it appears they make muffins, bundt cakes, ring cakes, loaf cakes, danishes, turnovers, croissants, and cafe bites. They say demand for their products have grown to the extent that their state-of-the-art Phoenix, Arizona production facility built in 2011 was joined by another in Indiana in 2014. You know, it's interesting to be a Phoenix native. Mind you, I did live away from Arizona for a while, but all these companies that have brought all these jobs in, it's certainly interesting to learn about and see. And you see all the, I'm going to believe those are the employees there. Not quite sure if they have to wear white to work or if they were given that as a security measure, health measure, caution. But again, we're going to keep an eye on this. Carbon dioxide leak reported. No reports of injuries as a result. No reports of injuries. You're watching News Now. If this is your first time, welcome. This is what we do Monday through Friday. Myself, Pilar Arias, and Mike Page are your hosts, but this is a huge team effort of everybody here at Fox 10 Phoenix, along with finding us here on the Fox 10 Phoenix Facebook page. You can find us on youtube.com/Fox 10 Phoenix. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. We have our own pages, as well as Fox 10 Extra, which is channel 45 if you have a digital antenna or rabbit ears, or cable channel 9. And we have live breaking news feeds and Skyfox across the Phoenix area, Valley of the Sun, the Phoenix Metro, which includes Goodyear, Surprise, Glendale. Got all of the Valley suburbs covered. Looks like Skyfox. Oh, there it goes. And the whole state of Arizona. Celeste was talking this morning about viewers in Flagstaff that were interacting with her on social media. So that was pretty cool, just to kind of see our reach here at News Now. We cover national live breaking news feeds. We have that here as well. And we have a worldwide audience. There was a viewer earlier that said that they were in Denmark. We have a regular who watches in England. We have quite a few people who watch from Canada. So when you're watching News Now, it's really all about the experience of everybody watching together. So we are keeping a close eye on this situation, but it appears that everything is okay. And if anything changes, we will let you know. Again, the carbon dioxide leak was reported here. One viewer is saying that he believes what the people are wearing, the employees here, are wearing a clean room bunny suit since they work with food. It's a possibility there. Wow, we have a viewer from New York City as well. That's really amazing. All right, well, they are continuing to make some remarks on the Senate floor. So we're going to head back there now. If you're watching us here on Fox 10 Phoenix Facebook Live, thanks so much again. But it does appear that the situation is under control here at 70th Avenue and Buckeye. So we are going to head back to the Senate floor. You're watching News Now.
David was born in the United States before he moved to China. And I think as a parent, and if you're a parent, you remember those new babies, you take them to get their shots. It's much harder on mom and dad than it is on the baby. The baby's screaming and crying, the pain they're feeling. And you yearn as a parent to try to take away that pain. It's part of the natural response of any mom or dad. But tragically in this nation, there are over 13,000 babies aborted that are over 20 weeks old. You see, at 20 weeks, that baby can yawn, it can make faces, it can stretch. And the science tells us that babies at 20 weeks of age can feel pain. So we think about the pain that a parent feels when a newborn maybe receives a vaccination. Imagine the pain a baby at 20 weeks and beyond feels if it's being aborted. In fact, when they do in utero surgery, at 20 weeks and beyond, they administer anesthesia to that baby. We must continue to fight to protect life at all stages. But certainly where we can take steps, bipartisan steps, to protect life, we should. And I think we might be able to agree that banning elective abortions for babies that are 20 weeks or older, that's 5 months. It's well past the halfway stage in gestation. We should do that. At the center of this debate is a tiny child. And that baby can't speak for itself yet. Those babies we fought for in China, whether it's that baby that was saved by a case of shampoo, or those twin baby girls that were dropped off on our doorstep, they couldn't speak and fight for their lives. The babies in the womb, their cries aren't audible. We at least could hear the cry of those twin baby girls, and that is why we must act on their behalf. In fact, studies have shown that the vast majority of Americans are in favor of prohibiting late-term abortions, of stopping elective abortions after 20 weeks. In fact, if you poll millennials, that number is even higher. Now, why is that? Well, I'm not sure I have the precise answer, but one possibility is technology. In fact, if you have a smart...
All right, everyone, thanks again for watching News Now. We're getting some requests on the YouTube chat to head back to the fires in Texas, so let's do that. Let's take a look at this. Breaking news. Fortunately, we are not hearing of any injuries or property damage in this. Being told there's actually a couple grass fires in Texas. This is Parker County. 2 grass fires are burning in parts of North Texas this afternoon. Multiple agencies are working to put a grass fire in Flower Mound near U.S. Highway 377 that had already burned about 100 acres. They're working on that. Crews are also in Parker County. That's where these Skyfox aerials are to battle a grass fire near Willow Park. We have a massive grass fire near Indian Camp Road and Ranch House Road. Willow Park officials said on their Facebook page, the fire is moving east. Homes are being evacuated, but so far no reports of damages to homes. It's developing quickly, and they're going to keep us updated as much as possible. They ask that people avoid the area so crews can do their job. Again, no reported injuries in this situation. Just want to let you all know. But remember, if it's breaking, you can find it here on News Now. So I'm asking if we need viewer discretion. No, not in this case, because again, we're not told that this isn't, there are being homes that are evacuated, but we're not being told that it's an immediate threat to any structure or any people. We're also talking about on the chat how the feed cut out for a couple people. I know the Skyfox picture is coming in and out a little bit here, but other than that, we have continued streaming, so not quite sure what happened there, but we have been doing some maintenance on our stream lately. So, but look at this. I mean, in California, you just had all the wildfires lately, and now this in Texas. Going to keep on this, but I just want to show you guys, if I can bring up both here. I want to show you all the beautiful picture we have, Capitol Hill. Look at that. Wow. We had a beautiful sunrise here, and it looks like they're getting a beautiful sunset in Washington, D.C. That's just absolutely gorgeous. The blue sky looks so winter-like, right? Wow. What do you guys think about that picture? And you see, you know what, it's funny it took me so long to realize that I wanted to be a journalist, because I started taking pictures at a very young age, and one of my favorite shots, as we call it, was always when you got the shadows. So you know that the trees are there, like they're really there, but they look like the blacked out shadows, and it looks marvelous, looks wonderful. Again, feed cut out there in Texas. They'll take you to the Capitol full. If it comes back, I'll bring it back for you all, okay? Wow, such unique colors there in our nation's capital. Any of you ever been to Washington, D.C., or do you currently live there? A lot of suburbs there as well. Somebody asking on the YouTube chat if Texas is all desert land and tumbleweeds. It is not. There's hill country out there and there's other parts. It's very green. And here you go. The picture's back up. Here we are. Parker County, Texas. Somebody describing the video of Capitol Hill as serene looking. Very cool there. Our nation's capital. Yeah, this is a very active fire. That's exactly what one of our viewers said. Any of you live out in this area and are seeing the smoke or possibly hearing fire crews? Again, anytime we have Skyfox, we don't get to hear anything that's happening. So hopefully everybody stays safe out there as well. We got another great picture I can show you all too right now. Wow, there's the, we call it a wide shot, the wide picture further away. You can see just how far that smoke is traveling, but it is mostly white smoke, which is normally a good sign. So, remember, I just told you guys that I lived in El Paso for a year and a half. They have the Franklin Mountains, so they have a mountain range there as well. The highest mountain peak, I always was told and learned and realized, is also in West Texas as well. So yes, Texas has a little bit of mountains, a little bit of rolling hills, but a lot of green, a lot of green. All right, here's the other beautiful picture I was telling you guys about. The White House. Evening time, sun setting. The variations, the different types of days that we can give you guys those live feeds are very cool. See crews there. They're likely trying to stop this fire from spreading or threatening any homes. Just want to let you all know, in about 20 minutes, we're being told that the House is going to vote on whether or not to reopen the government, so we're going to keep a close eye on that. But these visuals coming out of Texas, just astounding to see the flames raging on, the thick smoke so thick that sometimes you can hardly see the flames underneath that. Turns out it's 59 degrees in the Fort Worth area. That temperature reported about 26 minutes ago. 0% chance of precipitation, about 20% humidity, which even though it's North Texas, again, so far north, they still also experience humidity. Winds are blowing at about 20 miles per hour. No indication on the direction of those winds. I believe that crews did say that the fire was moving east. So you're watching News Now. Thanks for being with us. I'm still here with you all watching this together, and as soon as the House comes back to vote on reopening the government, we'll bring that to you live. Again, you're watching News Now. There's no audio with these aerials from Skyfox in the Dallas area. Hey, if you're a News Now subscriber, we certainly appreciate it. We're looking to grow this year, 2018. It's the beginning of the year. I gotta keep telling myself that. So please share our stream with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers. I asked earlier a poll question where you guys watch, if you watch it at home or if you watch it at work and or school. Kind of a mixed bag response there. When you sit down at the dinner table at night, do you tell who you're with, hey, did you see the gas well explosion on News Now today? Or did you see the huge grass fire in Parker County, Texas? There was so much smoke and fire. Again, we are being told that homes are being evacuated, but nobody injured at this time, which is good news. Just pretty shocking video, to say the least. What do you all think when you see this video out of there? See the trucks very close on the fire line there, doing their best to stop it from spreading. Now, we always refer to it as water, but anybody out there with firefighting experience? Because I've been told that this either isn't water or it's water mixed with something else. It's been referred to as foam. Does anybody know exactly what the elements or chemicals are that put out fires? Somebody on our YouTube chat just said that they enjoyed Fox 10. We certainly appreciate you and really enjoy being a part of the Fox 10 Phoenix team. It looks like the House is up, so let's head on over there now.
Without intervening motion.
Without objection, so ordered. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the order of the House of today, I call up the bill H.R. 195 with the House amendment to the Senate amendment to the House amendment thereto, and I have a motion at the desk.
The clerk will report the title of the bill, designate the Senate amendment to the House amendment to the Senate amendment, and designate the motion.
H.R. 195, an act to amend Title 44 United States Code to restrict the distribution of free printed copies of the Federal Register to members of Congress and other officers and employees of the United States and for other purposes. Senate amendment. Motion offered by Mr. McCarthy of California.
Pursuant to the order of the House today, the motion shall be debatable for 10 minutes, equally divided and controlled by the Majority Leader and Minority Leader or their respective designees. The gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy, and the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Hoyer, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself 4 minutes.
The gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, for 3 days the nation has watched as tens of thousands of federal employees were forced to stay home. As our men and women in uniform went without pay, as opioid treatment centers got cut off, and as parents faced the harrowing prospect that their children would lose their health insurance. The American people never wanted this to happen. Republicans in the Congress did not want this to happen, and we did everything in our power to make sure this didn't happen. The House passed a clean bill. A bipartisan majority in the Senate voted to pass that clean bill, but Senate Democrats shut it down. We were told it was about immigration, but Republicans always said that we would sit at the table. We already were at the table every single day before this shutdown, negotiating in good faith. Despite this political drama,
the House is not in order.
The gentleman withhold. The House will come to order. Members will remove themselves from the aisles and remove their conversations from the House. The House will come to order. Members will remove their conversations from the House and clear the aisles. The gentleman from California is recognized.
We were told this was about immigration, but Republicans already said we'd sit at the table. We already were at the table every single day before this shutdown, negotiating in good faith. Now, despite this political drama, I remain eager to get back to the table and put this all behind us. So I must ask, what was gained here at the expense of the American people? What was gained at the expense of our nation's reputation as a great and deliberative republic? Every policy in the House original bill the Senate passed today, Every single policy is the same. If the Senate had passed this same bill on Friday, all this disgraceful political theater would have never happened. Now, as it always should have been, our government will open. Our troops will be paid, and our children will have health insurance. But that's not enough. We cannot continue to repeat the same mistakes again. Now, as my father used to tell me, it's not your mistakes that define you. It's what you learn from them. So let's commit to each other and to the American public that we will not continue to fund our government through these short-term CRs. Let's commit that we will pass through both houses every appropriation bill with full funding for our troops, full funding for our defense, and full funding for every service our government owes to its people. We all know this shutdown was an embarrassment. It didn't need to happen. It should have never happened, and it will not happen again. That, Mr. Speaker, is the government the people want, the government the people need, and the government the American people deserve. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
The gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, as I said this morning, the reason why the government shut down is because the Republican majority has failed to fund the government. They have the majority of the House, the majority of the Senate, and the presidency of the United States. And with all due respect to my friend, the majority leader, 5 previous shutdowns were purposefully perpetrated by my Republican friends, the last for 16 days. The continuing resolution on the floor today reflects that failure. It does not, 9 months after we should have been done, establish the level of spending for this fiscal year. 9 months late. As a result, another continuing resolution may be inevitable. And in this resolution, we will extend the harmful effects of another CR to both defense and non-defense agencies for another 17 days. That means the Congress will be more than 4 whole months into the fiscal year without a budget agreement. This is dangerous, Mr. Speaker, both to our military and to our civilian agencies, each of which require budget certainty. Before February 8th, Republicans must work with Democrats to resolve the issues at hand. This means working together to lift the budget caps in accordance with the principle of parity, which Speaker Ryan agreed to over the past 4 years and should continue to today and in the future. It also means working in a bipartisan, bicameral way to address the status of Dreamers, now that President Trump created a crisis with his ending of the DACA program. Congress should act responsibly to allow these young people to stay, as more than 80% of Americans believe should be done. And, Mr. Speaker, it requires reauthorizing community health centers and other critical health programs, essential to complement the passage of the CHIP reauthorization, which is included in this CR. We also, my colleagues, have a responsibility to help those impacted by the devastating hurricanes in Texas, Florida, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, those affected by the wilderness fires in California, and communities struggling to combat opioid abuse. Congress must not waste the next 17 days as it has the last 114. I will be voting no, Mr. Speaker, on this continuing resolution, not because I don't want to see it pass, but because it does not guarantee that the Congress will address the issues that have been referenced. I pray that neither I nor the Congress will be in this same position come February 8th. I hope we will address in a positive manner the issues before us, and I am now pleased, Mr. Speaker, to yield 1 minute to the Minority Leader.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding and associate myself fully with his remarks. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hoyer, for your great leadership. Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to the Republicans' latest stopgap funding bill. I take great pride in House Democrats overwhelmingly supporting the first continuing resolution in September to give the majority a chance to get the job done. But after months of Republicans' excuses and extensions, I refuse to be an enabler to the Republicans' failures any longer. This past week once again exposed the utter incompetence of the Republican-controlled government. Here we are ending the Trump shutdown with Republicans' fourth stopgap short-term bill. The fourth Republicans have failed to get their act together, the fourth time, to fund the government for a full year. In August, Defense Secretary Mattis has asked what would be an effect of another stopgap short-term spending bill on the military.
The gentleman is correct. The gentlewoman will withhold. The House should be in order.
I'm confining myself to my notes to be brief. In August,
the gentlewoman withhold. The gentlewoman withhold. The House shall come to order. Remove your conversation from the House and keep the aisles open. The gentlewoman will resume.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In August, Defense Secretary Mattis was asked what would be the effect of another stopgap short-term spending bill on the military. You all know he replied, "It just creates unpredictability," he said. "It makes us rigid. We cannot deal with new and revealing threats. We know our enemies are not standing still, so it's about as unwise as can be." I'll submit other statements for the record to that effect from the Navy Secretary, etc. Now the Trump shutdown will end, but Republicans' wasteful incompetence continues. There's a dark cloud over the Capitol, Mr. Speaker. The deficit exploding GOP tax scam, which has added nearly $2 trillion to the national debt. Republicans have made their choice. Tax breaks for corporations and the wealthiest are more important than certainty for our military. Republicans control the House, the Senate, the White House. They control what bills we vote on in Congress. We could have brought up a long-term bill long before now. We have placed our suggestions on the table as to what would be on the domestic side of that. Resources for opioid epidemic that kills 94 people every day in our country. Funding for veterans' infrastructure and services. Saving millions of Americans' pensions in crisis today. For funding community health centers and life-saving research at the NIH, for child care for hardworking parents, for protecting patriotic young dreamers. And as our distinguished leader, Whip, said earlier, making sure we have the resources for those affected by hurricanes, for fires, and especially our folks in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. I'm going to submit some of that for the record. Because of the Republican majority's weakness, we still do not have a long-term spending bill that funds the military and the domestic investments that keep our America strong. We take an oath of office to protect and defend. Now we have to fund that. We have not delivered strong disaster recovery funding for Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and other victims of hurricanes. Congressional Democrats continue to propose bipartisan solutions, but Republicans refuse to take yes for an answer. We have not yet protected our courageous young dreamers. Not only should we protect them, we should embrace them, value them. We should be grateful for the inspiration they are to America. This is about meeting the needs of the American people. It is also about honoring the values that has made our nation a beacon to the world. Today, we end the Trump shutdown, but it does not diminish our leverage or our determination on the Democratic side to meet the needs of the American people. Democrats are united in our determination to get the job done. We are unified for a better deal, better jobs, better pay, and a better future. I urge a no vote and yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized, has 30 seconds remaining. Mr. Speaker and my colleagues, we have 10 1/2 days left before we have another crisis in funding our government.
let us try to use these days. Those are legislative days. We have more calendar days. Let us try to use every one of those days to reach agreement on funding the government so we don't have another CR, which all of us believe is bad fiscal policy and substantive policy. I urge us to come together so that we can avoid another crisis like this, address the issues that we know need to be addressed. And I thank the Speaker for the time.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan.
The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Thank you. Pass unanimous consent to advise and semi remarks to House for 1 minute.
The gentleman is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. My colleagues, I just want to say a few words about the last couple of days. I know there's great relief that this episode is coming to an end. This shutdown did not need to happen. However brief, it inflicted needless costs on the country. There are no winners here today. I want to make that clear. No winners except perhaps the millions of families who depend on the Children's Health Insurance Program. Soon, the longest reauthorization in the program's history will about to become law. But this is not a moment to pat ourselves on the back, not even close. We very much need to heed the lessons of what just happened here. We need to move forward in good faith, yes, on DACA and immigration, yes, on funding our military so that it gets the resources that our military so badly needs. Let's address these urgent challenges. Finally, I think all of us want to join in thanking the men and women who serve in our armed forces and who serve in our government around the country and around the globe. You see, they and their families are the ones who kind of get caught up in things like this. For them, these aren't political debates. They're livelihoods. The country's safety and security depend on responsible governing. That is why I sincerely hope that we never find ourselves in this position again, and I thank all of our members for their patience this week. I yield.
All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to the order of the House of today, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the motion by the gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Maryland seeks recognition.
Mr. Speaker, on that I ask for a recorded vote.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
All right, everybody, if you are just joining Fox News Now, Pilar Arias here with you for a few more minutes this Monday, January 22nd afternoon. The House is voting to reopen the government and align with the Senate. Meanwhile, it appears that the fire is out in Oklahoma. I'm going to try to bring you up both pictures at the same time so you can see the situation there in Oklahoma where the gas rig exploded. All right, everybody, we are going to be staying with you here on News Now until this vote officially comes down, but it's looking like the government will reopen. It is looking like the government will reopen. Meanwhile, while we wait for the official vote to be finalized, I'm going to give you guys the latest on the situation out of Oklahoma. Being told this is a rig explosion that has still left 5 people missing. The Oklahoma drilling rig explosion sent plumes of black smoke into the sky. It's in Quinton, which is about 100 miles southeast of Tulsa, and it exploded just before 9 a.m. while about 24 people were working on site. At least 3 medical helicopters responded to the explosion. 17 people were accounted for, one of whom was flown off the site for medical attention, but 5 people remaining missing. The explosion sparked several fires and sent thick black smoke into the air. The derrick, a towering metal structure above the well, also collapsed. Again, all day here on News Now, we referred to it as a gas well explosion. So not quite sure if this was gas or oil related, but it's something that we've been following all day. They say no deaths were immediately confirmed. The drilling site was being operated by Oklahoma City-based Red Mountain Energy, which regulates oil and gas operators. So again, not sure if this is oil or gas. A cause of the blast was not immediately clear. The company a company that specializes in rig fires and other well control problems also responded to the fire. Everything is contained, as you can see there on the scene. No danger to other residents. Thanks so much for being with News Now today. Minutes left there on the House floor, and then we will wrap up for the day. Again, you're watching News Now. While we have some time now, everybody, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thanks so much for watching while I filled in for Mike Page. We will both see you back here tomorrow. So be sure to tune into Extra, 10 a.m. to noon on Channel 45, Cable 9. And we had so much breaking news today that, you know, we were moving all over the place. But we kept a very close eye on Congress and Capitol Hill. Looks like tomorrow business will be back to normal. Have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, depending on where you're watching, and we'll see you Tuesday. And I'll make sure that I'm in the right month and I see January. What do you say?
Two minutes left on this vote.
All right, the time is up for the vote. We are going to bring you the gavel drop here live on News Now, and then that'll be it for our Monday, January 22nd, 2018. Again, thanks so much for watching News Now, everybody. We really appreciate it. Myself and Mike Pace will see you again tomorrow. The plan is to go to 6:30 p.m. Arizona time tomorrow. Hope your week is off to a great start, and we will see you then.
On this vote, the yeas are 266 and the nays are 150. The motion is adopted without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Okay. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to take from the Speaker's table Senate Concurrent Resolution 33 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the concurrent resolution.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 33, concurrent resolution providing for a correction in the enrollment of H.R. 195.
Is there objection to the consideration of the concurrent resolution? Without objection, the concurrent resolution is agreed to, and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Before the House of Communication.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir, pursuant to my election as ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, I write to inform you that I am resigning from the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee in compliance with the rules of the Democratic Caucus. Signed sincerely, Gerald Nadler, Member of Congress.
Without objection, the resignation is accepted. The House will come to order. Members will clear the aisles and remove their conversations from the House. The House will come to order. For what purpose does the gentleman from Maryland seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to speak out of order.
The gentleman is recognized.
I thank the Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, I yield to my friend, Mr. McCarthy, the Majority Leader.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the House will meet at noon for morning hour and 2 p.m. for legislative.
The House is not in order.
Gentleman's correct. House will come to order. Move their conversations from the House and will clear the aisles. The House will come to order. The gentleman will resume.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the House will meet at noon for morning hour and 2 p.m. for legislative business. Votes will be postponed until 6:30 p.m. On Tuesday, the House will meet at 10 a.m. for morning hour and noon for legislative business. The House will recess no later than 5 p.m. and reconvene at approximately 8:35 p.m. for a joint session of Congress to receive the President's State of the Union address. Members are requested to be on the floor and seated no later than 8:20 p.m. On Wednesday, votes are no longer expected in the House. Mr. Speaker, the House will consider a number of suspensions next week, a complete list of which will be announced by close of business this Friday. In addition, the House will once again take up legislation to fund the Department of Defense for its fiscal year. This bill will be fully consistent with the National Defense Authorization Act.
I still can't fully hear the Majority Leader.